The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Goodyear, Arizona, on your new Pierce fire apparatus, job number 34326. Please utilize this 5-digit job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment and Pierce Manufacturing. We'll get started on a brief orientation of your new apparatus. Starting just under the front bumper, you'll find 2 open-ended tow hooks. Moving just inside of that location, you'll find dual air horns. Moving up onto the face of the bumper, you'll find a cutout housing the PA speaker and electronic siren. Let's move to the side now at the bumper extension area. We'll talk a little bit about the components within your extension of your bumper. First, let's start with the passenger side front discharge and the driver's side front discharge. These are both located in the bumper extension. The lid is now in the open position, and also the sides will drop down for access for your hose load. As we look inside where the dry deck material is on the bottom, you'll also find the 1.5-inch swivel discharges. There is one in the very front section on the passenger side, and then one on the driver's side toward the rear. I've got a few more images here to show the opposite side, to show the lid in the open position, and then also with the side in the open position also. As we move from this location, let's move back to the cab where you'll find a side-facing emergency warning light. Moving up onto the face of the cab, you'll find your identification marker light and also turn indicator. Just inside of that location on the cab face, you'll find your forward-facing headlights. These are going to be low and high beam. The high beam is on the inside. Moving just up from that location, you'll find your emergency warning light cluster, housing 2 emergency lights on the passenger and driver side. Directly in the center of the grille, you'll find your mechanical siren. As we look just to the Pierce logo, directly behind that you'll find the latch for gaining access into the hood area. Here is your Goodyear Fire Department logo on the very front of your apparatus. Let's move now to the side. On the driver's side, you'll find once again a side-facing emergency warning light. You'll also find on the passenger and driver's side these rear-facing cameras. Let's take a look now with the hood in the open position. Once again, to gain access, it's directly behind the Pierce logo. As we look inside, you'll find your fill location for your windshield wiper fluid. As we move to the other side, you'll find your windshield wiper motors. And then as we move to the driver's side, you'll find first on the very far right-hand side, tucked in the corner, your power steering location. There is a sight gauge also in that vicinity. Let's move just to the left in the image. On the back wall, you'll find the instructions for raise and lowering the cab. The red switch is the function switch, selecting either raise or lower, and the yellow remote is the switch which will activate that function. As we move inside now to the driver's space, when the door is opened, the steps will drop down to the position for making entry into the cab. As we look now onto the door panel, you'll find all of your warning and also danger and caution labels located here. As we move on to the driver's side door panel, you'll find window controls. Moving just inside, you'll find 2 switches on the floorboard. We'll talk about those in just a moment. As we move to the right, you'll find your accelerator on the far right-hand side and the brake treadle located directly in the center. Let's move from this position just downward to the floorboard area where you'll find the 2 foot pedals. First on the left, your air horn, and then on the right is your mechanical siren. All the way to the right-hand side to the wall of the engine, we'll find your City of Goodyear placard. This is the date of manufacture, 5-digit job number, gross vehicle weight ratings, cold tire inflation. It also has the VIN number and all of your fluid capacities for each component, fluid capacity, and fluid type. Let's move from this location to about the left knee where you'll find the tech module. Then as we move lower to the left, you'll find the green engine transmission ABS diagnostic port, and to the right, you'll find your display monitor port. Moving downward, we'll find a set of switches. First, the ABS diagnostic, engine diagnostic, and then just beneath that, you'll find the engine inhibit and DPF regen switch. Let's move just upward from this location and you'll find the master battery switch. It is the red function switch which allows you to gain access to the battery on or off. And you'll also find to the very far right hand side a audible speaker with volume control. Moving now up to the dash area, you'll find your ignition switch. You'll also find the start switch, and just at the very top you'll find a red triangle switch. This is for your four-way flashers. Moving just to the right, you'll find an EM switch, which stands for Emergency Master. This will activate and deactivate all of your emergency lights. Just inside of that location, you'll find your headlight switch, and then also a panel switch, which allows you to brighten or dim the lights within the preview of the driver. Let's move now to the dash itself. We'll identify the items within the dash area. First, starting on the left with the transmission oil, DEF level, and water temperature. On the far right, you'll find your volts, fuel, front and rear air, speedometer and tachometer located in the center. Diagnostic information displays above and below the speedometer. Let's move to the right of the steering column, where you'll find your OK to engage your high idle. There is an indicator and also a switch for this area. Moving just up, you'll find your pull to apply your system parking brake and push to release. To the right, you'll find your Pierce command zone, a tremendous amount of information right here at the operator's fingertips. Please see your owner's manual for more information. As we move down, you'll find your steering wheel, which does house a supplemental restraint system. There is an airbag located within that area. Moving now overhead of the operator in the very center, you'll find a light indicating if flashing, do not move your apparatus. You may have a compartment door open. You'll also find there are push on and off red or white lens lights located over the operator and over the passenger. As we move over the driver's position in the far left-hand corner overhead, you'll find your height, length, and gross vehicle weight rating. As we move to the right, you'll find your emergency master, roof light, front warning, side warning, lower rear warning, upper rear warning, high beam flash, and your Opticom switch. When any of these switches have been activated, the outer edge of that switch will illuminate. Just to the right, you'll find your electronic siren, siren brake, a future switch if necessary, load manager, front flood, driver side scene, passenger side scene, and rear scene light. Once again, any of those switches are activated, the outer edge of that light will illuminate in the switching area. As we move further to the right, you'll find your PA system and electronic siren control module. Moving all the way to the far right, you'll find a digital readout for your pump pressure. You'll also find a water tank level indicator, and then just to the right, you'll find a foam level indicator. Let's move back down to the dash area. We'll talk a little bit about some of the items within this area. First, starting with your Allison transmission pad. It is a digital readout push button with an information note here to pump in neutral. On the right, you'll find a set of switches. We'll go over those switches in depth, and then you'll also find a set of switches just below that area. To the far right-hand side, we'll find your traffic advisor. It is an on-off switch that also has controls for left-right split flash. And then also it has an indicator for the direction of your rear lights flashing. Just beneath that, you'll find a push to talk for your radio system, and then also a 12-volt access, which is going to be USB style. On the very top section here, you'll find your climate control, and then as we move down onto the face just above the stationary pump switches, you'll find your mirror controls for the flat and convex mirror. Let's go back to those switches first. This is the stationary OK to pump and roll. There's an indicator and also a water pump and foam system switch. You'll also have a retarder switch for on and off. You have a retarder auto apply, future switch location, left exhaust diverter to the right, and then also a off-road traction and mirror heat. Moving to the next set of items, we'll find your push to talk for your radio button and also that 12-volt access USB style. Here's a close-up of the traffic advisor. And then as we move just to the top section is where you'll find your mirror controls for the flat mirror and also the convex right and left side. Once again, this is your heat and air conditioning and also defrost climate control. As we move back outside to the exterior, you'll find Alcoa wheels and Michelin tires. Located in the center, you'll find a sight gauge. Let's move from this location now. In between the driver door and the rear cab is where you'll find your Shoreline auto eject plug. It's a 30 amp plug.
As we move to the rear cab, you'll find once again affixed to the door panel all of those safety and warning labels. You'll also find a red grab handle for gaining access in and out of the compartmented area for your firefighter and firefighter safety. Once again, when the rear door opens, the steps will lower into position. Just a quick view overhead of the space within the cab. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the items on the left and right hand side of the seats located in the center. First, your seat belts are going to be red in color for easy visual identification. Directly to the rear wall, you'll find your headset David Clark system. You'll also find on each passenger and driver side this location for glove storage. You'll also have a 12-volt access via USB style. Just in front of these positions is where you'll find the access for your daily checks for oil and transmission. Let's go ahead and move from this location now in between the two seats, where you'll find when plugged into shore power, these outlets will be active. This is going to be directly behind the driver's seat. You'll also find your air compressor when plugged into shore power will be activated. That is the first indication here. Moving just to the rear of that seat, you'll also find your auto charge system for your batteries, and then you'll also find a breaker box location. Once again, this is directly behind the driver's seat. Quick close-up here of the lower section, which has the netting, and then above you'll find your gloves and also 12-volt access. As we move now to the passenger side, behind the seat you'll also find 12-volt access via bus bar, and then also access here for your unit radio. Let's move back out to the exterior. We'll talk a little bit about some of the items starting on the passenger side. First, on the cab door, we're going to find your Goodyear Fire logo, and then we're also going to find a unit identifier E186. Let's go now to the inside section where the officer would be. First, open the door, drop down steps, and then also once we gain entry on that door panel, we're going to find all of our caution and warning labels. As we move inside the cab, specifically about the officer's knee area is where you'll find some warning labels here. This vehicle is equipped with a supplemental restraint system, so objects should not be mounted within this vicinity. As we move inside the cab also, let's talk a little bit about some of the items. You may come across these candy cane style warnings. These are indicating that you have wires behind the panel. As we move to the left of the officer's seat, you'll find the siren brake, air horn, mechanical siren, and also radio push-to-talk button. From this location, let's move just to the back portion where you'll find 12-volt access. This is barrel style, cigarette lighter, and then also USB style. As we look overhead in the officer's area, let's identify a few items. First, starting with your switching panel, you'll find front flood, driver side scene, passenger side scene, and rear scene. Moving to the left, you'll find a AM/FM weather band radio. Moving further to the left, you'll find storage locations overhead in the cutout area. We'll take a quick look to the rear. From the front looking to the rear, you'll find the two forward-facing seats and then also the two rear-facing seats. We're now to the exterior. Just behind the cab on the passenger side, we'll start first at the very top is where you'll find long tool storage, and then also we'll find a dead load located in the next compartment over. As we move to the forward section of the cab, you'll also find backboard storage location here for two backboards. And then let's move downward in the same location for the crosslay, and you'll find your two crosslays independently labeled and also color-coded. You'll also find a warning label here regarding entanglement hazard. Because of those hoses coming from a loft, there is the possibility of entanglement. That's why we have a warning label. You'll also find the release mechanism for those crosslay speedlays. Once that is lifted, it will allow those crosslays to be removed. Now to the notch area, where you'll find a pull-out style running board. As we move up to the notch area, you'll find first on the left a warning label regarding fall hazard. You'll also find the large diameter pump intake, and we also have a warning label here regarding pressure hazard. Caps may be under pressure. Be cautious when opening them. As we move down to the lower left, you'll find your foam function operations, and then you'll also find a 2.5-inch passenger side inlet. That's a female inlet. Just to the right is where you'll find your garden hose outlet. And then we'll also find your large diameter discharge. We do have overrides for both of these because they're electronic valves, and we'll talk a little bit about those in the next image here. As you can see, the small override inlet hole, this is for the passenger side large diameter discharge. Let's move down through the compartments. We'll identify a few items within these. First, LED lighting and also adjustable shelving. As we move just in front of the rear axle, you'll find SCBA bottle storage for 3 bottles in addition with retaining straps. As we move just over the rear axle, you'll find a pull-out drop-down shelf. The 2 black mechanisms are the release for that. And in that compartment, you'll also find, when plugged into shore power, the outlets will become active. To the rear of the axle, you'll also find 2 additional SCBA bottle storage with retaining straps and an oxygen bottle storage location. As we move to the very rear compartment, you'll find adjustable shelving and LED lighting, in addition with an outlet in the upper right-hand corner. Let's go ahead and pull back and just take a general view here of all of the compartment doors open. What I'd like to point out is this label affixed. It's a warning caution label regarding extremely hot diesel exhaust temperatures. Be cautious where you park your vehicle. Also, as we look to the very top, next to the Goodyear Fire Department logo, you'll find scene lights and then also emergency warning lights. These will be your upper zone warning lights. Let's move down to the notch on the driver's side. First, starting at the very top, same layout as the passenger side. This is your dead lay, and then also the 2 pre-connects down in the lower section. Because of those pre-connects, we do have, once again, that caution warning label regarding entanglement hazard, and then also that release mechanism located in the very center, which allows you to release the speed load to be able to remove to a lower section for loading of that hose. Let's now start at the notch area. First, starting on the far left-hand side, you'll find 2.5-inch discharges. You'll also find, once again, a pressure warning hazard because of those caps that may be under pressure. Be cautious when opening. You'll also find your large diameter pump intake. We also have, because of this being an electronic valve, we have an override in the upper right-hand corner, and then also a foam failure hazard warning. Foam may cause failure if you use different brands or consistencies. Do not mix your foam. As we move to the right, you'll find your foam function lever for fill and draft operations, and then also a warning label here regarding do not climb on or ride on the side of the vehicle while it's in motion. As we move down to the very bottom, you'll find all your color-coded and labeled drains. We'll now just move to the upper portion of the pump panel area. We'll first start at the very top. When this light is illuminating, it's indicating that it is okay to pump. You've properly engaged your pump from the cab. Let's move downward now to the far left-hand side of the pump panel, where you'll find a LED indicator for your foam B tank. And then as we move to the right in the gray area, you'll find your master intake gauge on the left, and then on the right, your master discharge gauge. In between the 2 of those gauges, you'll find your test gauge ports for vacuum and pressure. They currently are plugged. Let's move just to the right of the gray module, where you'll find your PCM fault. It's an amber indicator, and then just beneath that, you'll find an audible alarm speaker. The outer edge of that bezel does allow you to dampen the sound. Also, you'll find a pump overheat indicator down in the lower portion. It also has an amber indicator. Let's move downward on the pump panel, where you'll find your discharges. They are color-coded and labeled, indicating if they are foam capable. Let's move just to the right, where you'll find your Husky foam system. There is an on-off switch in the upper left. It's the green switch. We also have operating instructions on the actual foam module itself, a digital readout for your foam percentage. The 2 gray buttons are your increase or decrease, and then also a prime button. I would like to point out the system status light on the far right-hand side. On the placard itself, there are system status light indicators on what those are specifically indicating for the function. Let's move all the way to the right, where we'll find your minimum operation maintenance schedule. A little blurry in this image here, but ultimately it has your 5-digit job number. In the center, it has the 150, 200, and 250 test pressures. On the left-hand side, you'll find the associated GPM for test pressure, and on the right-hand side, you'll find the associated RPMs. It also has the governed speed in the very lower section at 2,400 RPMs. Moving down to the left, you'll find your tank fill and tank to pump. Moving further to the right, you'll find your electronic valves. They're clearly color-coded and also labeled. There are 3 on this side of the pump panel, and also your passenger main inlet. Moving to the right, you'll find a few placards here regarding your Husky 3 foam system. One on the left-hand side of your system instructions, and on the right are the specifications. Moving down, you'll find your fire pump. It is an air prime, and there are instructions just at the lower section here for priming instructions and for best practices. At least 1,000 RPMs is best for engaging the primer. Also down, you'll find your air inlet and air outlet and supply. Moving further down behind the pan door, you'll find the yellow handle matches the instructions on the back of the door. This is for foam fill operations and operation of your foam system. You'll also find on the right-hand side your manual pump shift override. It is a protected switch with an amber indicator once it's been activated. As we look across the very bottom, you'll find all your color-coded and labeled discharge drains. Moving back up onto the vertical wall, you'll find your TFT monitor station, and then just beneath that, you'll find a set of switches. We'll go over those switches next. First, starting at the very top with the driver's side scene lights, and then also passenger side scene lights. As we move further down on the switch panel, you'll find rear scene lights, future switch locations, and also a red air horn button. As we move to the opposite vertical side, you'll find the remote for your TFT monitor system. And then just above that, you'll also find the remote for your light tower on top of the vehicle. There's also information here, 13 feet, 7.5 inches for your light tower height. As we move through the compartments now, in the compartment directly over the rear axle, you'll find a D handle to gain access. Once it's in the open position, it will lock into position. To restore, simply lift the lock mechanism. As we look to the two compartments in front of and rear of the rear axle, you'll find SCBA bottle storage locations with retaining straps. You'll also find in this compartment your fluid location. This is the silver ultra low sulfur diesel. And then as we move the lever or flap downward, it will expose the DEF tank. This is a analog gauge indicating the DEF level. It is an 8-gallon DEF tank. And then as we move also to the front section, you'll also find SCBA bottle storage in the front area. Let's now move to the rear compartment. You'll find LED lighting, adjustable shelving, and also a pegboard on the rear wall. As we look underneath this location, you'll find your folding wheel chocks. There is a release mechanism for each individual wheel chock. You'll also find diesel exhaust label here indicating extremely hot diesel exhaust temperatures. Once again, be cautious where you park your vehicle. We're now to the rear of the apparatus. We'll identify a few items within this area, first starting with your brake, turn, and reverse light. Just inside of that location, you'll find a emergency warning light. This is your lower rear warning light. We'll also find a step and also additional switches. These are the rear scene lights and also driver's side scene lights. As we move upward from this location, you'll find an emergency warning light in the lower section. This is going to be your upper emergency warning light. And at the very top, you'll find a rear-facing scene light. Moving just to the right of this location in the pan door, you'll find your ladder storage location. We have a 24-foot extension ladder and also a 14-foot roof. In the very upper section, top right corner, is where you'll find your 10-foot folding ladder, and then also location here for long-handled tool storage. Let's move to the center area now. Let's talk a little bit about some of the items here. First, starting with some of the warning labels. Because of those hoses coming from a loft in the hose bed, we have a entanglement hazard warning label. We also have your backup camera located just underneath the traffic advisor, and then also some additional warning labels here regarding fall and that you should not ride on or climb while the apparatus is in movement. Let's move downward to the roll-up compartment. Once again, your unit identifier E186. As we move now inside the compartment, you'll find an adjustable tray at the very bottom with ventilation and the ability for adjustable shelves. On the right-hand side is where you'll find the release mechanism for extending or retracting that tray. As we move to the right-hand side, you'll find your driver's side hose bed cover and also passenger side scene lights and passenger side hose bed cover. You'll also find a pull-out or extendable ladder. Be cautious, we have some warning labels regarding pinch hazard. As we look now to the top of the vehicle and the hose bed cover, you will find these yellow reflective diamonds. These are indicating the walking surface and the edge of that walking surface for firefighter safety. As we now look through the next set of images, these will contain the hatch compartments. They do have dry deck material inside and also LED lighting. As we move now to the dunnage area, you'll find on the left-hand side of the image, this is your Husky 3 foam system reservoir. And then on the right-hand side, this is going to be your master stream device. Let's go back and take a look at the Husky foam system. First, starting at the very bottom section, you'll find a fill location for the hydraulic reservoir. As we move to the right, you'll find top controls for your master stream device. You'll also find as we look forward, this is a non-walking surface. You'll find these warning labels affixed to the cab area. And located in the very center is where you'll find your light tower. Moving just forward to that location, you'll find your air conditioning unit and light bar. As we move back to the dunnage area, you'll find your top fill location for your water tank, and then also just next to it, you'll find the fill location for your foam tank B. On that cap there, we do have an additional warning label here regarding foam failure and not to mix different brands or consistencies of foam. Just a quick image here looking from the front to the rear with both of the doors in the open position. Congratulations, Goodyear, Arizona, on your new Pierce Fire apparatus, job number 34326. If you have any questions regarding your apparatus, please contact your Hughes Fire sales representative. Thank you and congratulations.